East Coast. You got 3 more hours than we do if you're out on the Pacific Coast and somewhere in between. Thank you for joining us. Myrna and I have been thinking about how can we be of best service to everybody during these incredibly trying times. I'm talking to a lot of you offline via Facebook Messenger or on the phone or via text message. Mm-hmm. And we are all struggling with the same issues. And I was just telling Myrna, I was on a webinar yesterday with a group of tour operators, and they're on the same path as you are. So what we're going to do is we are going to be coming live every Friday. And we are going to be having sessions like this, guest speakers like Brenda, and I'll introduce Brenda in a second, to get your courage up, to get you beyond any of those obstacles that are blocking the way towards success. Because I don't care how dark your current situation is, I really don't. We are going to get through this, but you're not going to get through this if you don't have the personal staying power, the willpower to see that proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. And today we're going to do a little bit of storytelling, and Brenda has amazing stories. This woman has served our country, and thank you as always, Brenda, for your service. She is a business owner. She is a marketing guru. She has worked as a travel advisor, and she, most of all, is an incredibly generous soul who wants to be of service to others. And I thought, in talking to Brenda over the last couple of weeks, I thought it would be really helpful to sort of launch this series of inspirational talks and buck us up gatherings to have Brenda come on and talk about a time in her life where she definitely saw some situations that could paralyze you. But this woman, because of her own personal fortitude, because of her life's experiences, and because of her military training, not only did she get herself through some challenging times, but as a people leader of our armed forces, she got others through some troubling times. So Brenda, tell us a little bit about how old you were when you first entered into the military.
So I joined the military a month after I turned 17 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And, yes, and what I don't tell a lot of people is that it was actually over a bet. So I'm not sure who won this one. So here I am 24 years later. I think I won, but.
Yeah, you did. So you joined the military. You were serving in the United States, and you got assigned to a very dangerous place. Tell us about that.
So back in 2007, I was deployed to Iraq. I served at the U.S. Embassy, and a lot of you may have an idea what that is because it was in the news just a few weeks ago. And so I served at the U.S. Embassy for a year in Baghdad, Iraq, back in 2010.
And you served, so that embassy is right there on the Tigris River?
It is. It's right next to the Tigris River.
And multiple service groups were there, right? It wasn't just the U.S. Army. It was other members of the military. No?
No, so at that time, right. So at that time, 2010, things had calmed down a little bit. Before us, we had what we would call multinational armed forces, MNFI, multinational force in Iraq. And that was every coalition country soldiers that were assigned with us. By the time I got there, it was no longer a multinational. It was now a joint command. And what I mean by that is I had soldiers, I had Marines, I had airmen, and I had Air Force. And so it was actually a pretty interesting assignment because I was assigned to the arm of the military that was helping the country restructure all of their government agencies. And so we had a lot of liaisons. So I had about 240 people that I was supporting. I was the only female in my immediate office. I had 4 officers, general officers, that I supported, and they only enlisted in my office, so I was the only sergeant in my office.
And
but yes, I have every.
Go ahead.
No, I had a little bit of everything. So I had, besides the U.S. Armed Forces members, I also had some Iraqi translators, and then I had some contractors. So it was a mix of people.
So it was kind of calm when you got there, but that didn't last for very long.
No, so I got there at the beginning of the year, and I was like, okay, well, this is great. Everybody's going about their business, and it's calm and it's wonderful. Okay, so I was kind of like they say, cautiously optimistic. Is that the right word? Or the phrase? So until 3 months later, so it might have been March, April timeframe, I'm sitting, and now we've always had, the military always tries to provide these little vendors, right? So we had like a little hall in a fortified building that had a coffee shop. It had like a little Pizza Hut, and in our regular department store, right, where we would get our toiletries and things like that. So we were sitting in the lounge, and all of a sudden I heard that alarm that I had never heard before. And there is no doubt of what it was, because it's a huge, loud alarm that starts yelling, incoming, 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 which means there is an incoming round coming to your location.
Oh my goodness.
It's not a advisory. It's not a maybe. No, it's coming. It's when you hear incoming, it's coming. And I'll never forget the feeling. I just got startled, and I looked around, and everybody was kind of going about their business. What I later found is that building itself was considered a bunker of types. And so I was like, okay, all right, okay, we'll get through this,
And you're 21 at this time?
No, so this was 10 years ago, so it was 30, 32,
Okay.
31. Yes.
And what rank did you have at that time?
I was a sergeant first class.
So you're middle management.
Yes. I was considered a senior. So there are nine steps in the enlisted rank. I was number 7 at the time.
Okay, a little bit toward the upper end of management.
Right, for us. And so so we had, now what was really important is that we had specific processes. In the Army, I did HR in operations, and I joke that there's nothing like HR in the Army, because it involves counting people at all times. So the very first thing you do is you pick up your phone and you start calling all of your soldiers, and then you report back, and there's this tree of calls that have to happen up and down to make sure that we're all accounted for, right, and that we're all safe. And that was okay. But later on, it was okay. I came home around 4th of July for my mid-tour leave. But when I went back, it was a total different scenario.
It got worse.
Yes, it did.
And how bad did it get?
So while I was gone on leave, I didn't realize, I found out after I got back that VP Biden had made a surprise visit. And, politicians do it all the time, of course. And I'm at the embassy, which is a politician, it's a hotbed. It is the place to meet politicians. So I get it. But then what it did is it raised our profile. And so all of a sudden, all of those rockets kept coming all the time. And it went from a rocket here and there to a rocket multiple times a day. And it at first, it was a little disconcerting, right? Because you're like, okay, am I going to be okay? But then again, that's what we train for,
right?
So it's not less scary, but you still have to get through it. You still have to do what you're supposed to do, right? We rely on our training. We rely on the policies we have in place, that we have. It's funny because, while you're training, you train until you know this stuff by heart. And then you train some more. And I would always be frustrated with that because I'm like, okay, why are we doing this again? We just did great. No, run it again. Like almost like a football game, right? Where you run these plays again and again and again until they become muscle memory. And but then I realized, there's a reason for that. It's because you rely on what you know. You rely on your training. You rely on the SOPs, the procedures that we have in place.
And how long did this go on for? And how long were you still there?
It went on every day until the end, until I left.
And how long was it before you left?
Another 6 months at least.
Right.
Because I was around 4th of July. I didn't leave until like a week before Christmas.
So for 6 months, every day, you guys were getting shelled.
Oh yes, it was. We joked towards the end that it was like my alarm to wake up, my alarm to go to take a break, my alarm to go to lunch, my alarm to go to eat, and then to go to sleep at night.
Were there any low points for you? Were there any moments where I've interviewed other military members who've been on bases in Iraq specifically, and some civilians who served in Iraq, and I've heard stories about people saying how close to breaking they were, that the tension and the anxiety of always thinking, walking to the bathroom could be the last moment. How did you get through it? Were there points where you were at really deep lows, or did the training kick in? How did you get through 6 months like that?
So, right, we're still humans, right? No matter what.
Right.
And yes, you rely on your training, and yes, you have moments. And I tell you, the walks to the chow hall is the cafeteria. Those were the walks. So I lived in a 5 square mile compound, right? And I knew that, and it was always in the back of my mind. Some days when I would walk, I would think to myself, oh my God, I'm living in 5 square miles. Like, this is my life. Like, I'm not, there's no such thing as going out to the movies. There's no such thing as going outside for, whatever. And then everything is brown. There are no flowers. I'm a very artistic person, so I miss colors. When people say, what did you miss? I said, I miss colors.
Everything was
so
green
you're in
and
this
brown.
Yes. Not even green. There was a patch of grass that the Department of State flew in from I don't know where, and that's where the guys would like sometimes play if they had some time to play softball or whatever. Not softball, but soccer. But that was it. There was no grass. Everything was brown and it was dirt. It was not really sand. It's just dirt. So sometimes that could get to you. You could walk around and be like, oh my God, like, this is my life. Like, I can't just go to the mall. I can't do. But quickly, you had to catch yourself, because if you go down that deep end, you continue to go down that deep end. So it was, I made a kind of a game with myself. It was like, okay, you're allowed to have those thoughts during the walk between the office and the cafeteria, which is half a mile, quarter of a mile, maybe. 3/4 of a mile, sorry. Half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. It was one way. And I'm like, okay, you can have all those crazy thoughts between work and the cafeteria. Once you get there, you got to put your game face on. And so that's the deal that I made with myself. And so now I joke, I have friends that we joke, and it's like, you're allowed 10, 15 minutes to have pity, cry it out, feel sorry for yourself. And then you got to go gangster, It's kind of an inside joke, but it works because, I mean, everybody has to go through that, right? Like, you need to work through that.
Yes.
But you can't stay there forever, right? You have to move on. I had a pastor that would tell us, it's like when you're riding a plane and there's turbulence, right? You don't want the plane to stay there. You want the plane to get through it and onto the other side. And so that was the thing, get through that turbulence to get on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So that's how we got that's how I got through it. That and travel, believe it or not.
So you basically you permitted yourself to be fearful. You didn't shame yourself for having thoughts of fear, and you just said to yourself, "Look, I have the skills. The people around me have the skills, and we can do our best to get this plane through this turbulence, get this group of soldiers, back home whenever they let us go home." So
absolutely.
Talking to travel advisors these days, because you're doing consulting, are you hearing fear in people's voices and what they write to you and what they post on social media? And do you see any parallels with your experience in Iraq?
Yeah, absolutely. You have two groups of people. You have the group of people that have been in the industry long enough. They survived 9/11. They survived the swine flu. They survived all of these other viruses, and they know that we shall get through this again.
Right.
This is temporarily. This is not permanent. It is unprecedented for some of them because they have never seen some of the closures that we're seeing, right? Like Disney World and cruise ships, right? Canceling months out.
Right.
So there is that little, I think, that little thing of, oh my goodness, I've never seen this before. But everybody, and then they'll turn around and be like, you know what? But this was kind of sort of a much needed break. I really needed to regroup. I really needed to work on my business. I really had these things that I wanted to get done that I just didn't have the time to. Right. So I just got a message today from one of my actual travel agent clients. She's doing a course with me, and she was like, I'm kind of okay because now I get to do all the things that I'm supposed to be doing. And by the time we get back, I'm going to be in a new niche. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to be ready to go.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to look at this situation.
Absolutely, Myrna. And, I tend to be that kind of person too, that I'm always trying to find the positive silver lining of things. Of course, we have other agents that are not as positive about it, probably because of, they're probably newer agents that haven't really been through some of the things that the agents of career have been through. And it can be scary, but it's scary for every business out there right now, right?
Yeah, it's not
teachers.
No.
Right. I think teachers is everything.
What I hear the most, and it's a subtext, I don't think it's expressed specifically by the clients that we have, the travel advisors that I work with, is it's this concept of I don't know what the future holds. Mm-hmm. And that's what's afraid. That's what makes me afraid. When will I be booking something that gets me a commission again? How long is this going to go on for? What's the new policy coming out of a cruise line or a tour company? It's all of this unknown. Mm-hmm. And I think the subtext of all of that is I can't control the unknown. Therefore, I need to fear the unknown. That's it. Are either one of you hearing that, Myrna or Brenda, that it's?
Well, yeah, I mean, the uncertainty is stressful. Because especially if you're like she said, a newer agent, maybe you don't have as big a pipeline, right? So I'm finding, like, personally in my travel business, I do still have business for 2021. So I can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I still have those bookings and I'm rescheduling people and there's bookings in the future. Even though, yes, for a few months, I'm not going to get any commissions, I can look forward to the fact that it's definitely going to be temporary. The thing that's scary is you don't know how long this break is going to last. Like, right. Is it going to last 2 months? Is it going to last 6 months? Is it going to last 30 days? And that, I think, is uncertain. What also makes things stressful is that it's constantly changing. So one day the policy's this, and then suddenly, oh no, we're just canceling all the cruises through the end of June. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, is this going to last till the end of June? Oh no, what do I do now? So I think it's a lot of, I think that's what's difficult, is trying to figure out how do you make decisions about your business when you're living with all of this uncertainty. But I think what Brenda said is amazing. And that's what we should be doing, is we should be saying, you know what, it's going to be stopped for a while. How can we use this time to make our businesses better in the future?
So, so, Brenda, when you were on that, when you were at the embassy, you obviously had things that you had to do every day. You had responsibilities. How much of your anxiety disappeared when you were working on something that was a part of your, I don't know what your day was like. Was it 9 to 5? Was it 9 to 7? But was that a tool that you used to get through the uncertainty of when's the next volley of mortars coming into the compound? Or did you have other tactics that you deployed to kind of get yourself over what Myrna just said, is when is this going to stop? When am I going to have something that I can count on as normal?
Well, I'll tell you, it was really funny because I was the only female in the office, right? And you had all these officers around you. And these are infantry officers for the most part. A lot of them were combat specific, which for them to be inside of an office is already stressful. That is stressful for them. They're rather out there kicking doors, right? But I was reading something really interesting last night, and I see that it was actually some of the tips that some of the SEALs get through it. How do they get through their training and how to get through these very uncomfortable situations? And the SEALs, and we do too. I see this so naturally. Of course, we rely on our training, right? But they have a way of compartmentalizing certain things, right? And so they have figured that, okay, this green monster, they'll name it, this is what we're fighting against and whatever. And so it's easier to look at it that way. It's this one thing. It's not us. It doesn't consume us. It's just this one thing we have here that we have to deal with. And then after that, which was really funny that I thought, and it's so true, laughter is the best way to get to any situation.
Yes, it is.
And you can tell when you're in a room in this huge office with all these guys, senior people, by the way. I remember sitting in my desk at night because my hours were. So one of the critical things that I had to do was to make sure that I had accountability for everybody by 8 o'clock in the morning. And I needed to know where everyone was. So where are they? Are they en route to anywhere? Did they arrive? And who's there? And who are we missing? So once we got through that, which was very stressful, you can see when people will kind of be like, okay, we can relax a little bit. We have accountability for everything. We know where everybody is, right? So we had the best thing about it was people would send us boxes and boxes of care packages, right? We had all kinds of candy and snacks. But people will also send us a lot of these, the stress reliever, squishy type balls. So at night, when everybody will go to dinner, because we were still at work, so it was all day, sun up to sundown, basically. They will come out of their offices and then they will start throwing it at each other over the cubes. And I was like, okay, here we are, these grown people. You can't tell, this will never leave the office, right? But these guys were horrible at just being goofy. And I think that's how we all got through it. Through laughter, through lightening up the situation. I think that was the main thing that got us through it.
Yeah. I've never served in the military, so I'm not going to say I understand what you went through. But, I think all of us, I don't think there's a single person either watching or who's been going through what we're all going through right now, who has not hit periods in their life where you hit a darkness and you just wondered, will the sun ever rise again? Will things ever get better again? And I agree with you. I think being able to just be a kid again, or just be goofy, or say silly things. I see a lot of travel advisors who are posting funny stuff on social media, and they're getting a chuckle themselves, and then they're creating chuckles from their peers. People are chiming in, whether it's something about toilet paper or all the different memes that are getting passed around now. It's healthy to do that, and anybody who's putting a damper on people, trying to make light of this, don't do that to people, because you just don't know how much they need that chuckle. And I think we all need to keep doing that. I have so many people, Stacey Robertson Ray, Lisa Sheldon, and Lisa Bergala. I've got so many friends in this industry who post the silliest, funniest stuff. And it takes that darkness and it gives you a little bit of light for a few moments, and it picks you up, and you're like, okay, back to the wall. We're going to defend this darn embassy.
But I like what you said about accountability, because that's one of the things, how you had to count all your people and figure out where everybody's like, that's the first thing I did. Like when I realized that this was going bad and that I was going to have a lot of cancellations is, I ran a list of all my bookings for the next 60 to 90 days. Who's traveling? Where are they going? Who are they booked with? What insurance do they have? And I literally started triaging them. So yeah, who's leaving soon? Who's currently traveling? Who do I have to, reach out to first? And I proactively reached out individually to all these people to give them their options, tell them what's going on, find out how they're feeling. Some of them were, ready to cancel. Some of them were like, no, I'm okay waiting. But the fact that, I think they were just relieved that they knew that I was on it. And yeah, we're still very busy, right? Just because we don't have new business that's paying us, we're still really busy, and I think if you focus on the fact that we're helping our clients, I think they're going to remember that after this is all over. I think it's a chance for us to really shine in the industry by how much we care and how well we take care of our people. And that's, I think, one of the positives that's going to come out of this is that people are going to realize that the ones that have a travel advisor versus the ones that don't, they're going to know the difference instantly. I happen to have clients on a Regent cruise that got canceled halfway through, and they were in a group, and 2 of them booked with me, and so I was rebooking all their air and getting them home. But the other couple that went to book with Costco, she didn't have that, and it was so it just. My clients were so happy. They were sending me all these texts. They're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And, by the way, she realizes now she made a mistake, which of course, made me happy in that petty way. But
and that's why we can laugh about it.
I kind of feel bad for feeling good about her having to suffer, but she should have booked with me. So, but she had an $1,100 gift card from Costco. So there you have it.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Anyway, and that is
and
I think that's the silver lining. It's this is a chance for us to show our value, and yeah, it's hard. And it's hard when you wake up every morning and what now? Okay, who canceled now? What is happening? Our governor in Louisiana, a few minutes ago, announced they're closing all the schools for 30 days. And, it's getting serious in the US. So I think it's just a reality we have to deal with. But I agree that staying busy and staying on task for me helps me. If I know that I'm getting something done and I'm helping somebody, then I can get past my own little fears and issues and just focus on them. And it's not about me, it's about them. That kind of helps me get through it.
I am infinitely worse when I don't have a to-do list. In times like this, if I don't have things that have to get done, that's when
your thoughts just go
up. They just come crashing in on you.
Yeah.
So, Brenda, when you came back to the United States from Baghdad, how much longer were you in the service?
Another 9 years.
Another 9 years. Wow. When you got out of the military, did you find that these experiences changed you? Do you find in some of the things you've just talked about now that these are behaviors that were formed in this crucible of uncertain situation?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up there. I spent my 18th birthday at basic training. You know, I was again 17 when I signed up. When I left, I had spent 24 years, so I spent more time in than I had been out. And yes, and it was a big transition for me and a hard transition. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be completely blunt. It was very difficult to transition because I worked with people that I knew I can count on. I knew they had my back.
Mm-hmm.
We were not all perfect, but at least it was a sense of duty,
Right.
and a sense of responsibility that I had a hard time finding in other places. And yes, it probably, I officially got my orders last year, but I had stopped doing training for about a year, and it just got increasingly worse. But it was a big transition. I mean, I don't think nobody, and I'm going to be very candid. When I got back and I seek therapy and I spoke to a therapist about it, she's like, you know, no one human is designed to live in fear for that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it changes you, it affects you.
Yes, it does.
But right, but I think it didn't affect me as much because I trusted on these things that I had done, right? The things in place. When you have, just like you said, when you have a to-do list, when we have plans in place, then I feel infinitely better because I know that, you know what, I have thought about everything. I have a plan. So if something happens to me, like a lot of agents that I've talked to don't have those plans in place. You know, what if something happens to you? What about your clients? What about their bookings? Who's going to give them a call and follow up with them? And just having all of these plans and contingencies in place lessen that fear, lessen that, you know, that very uncomfortable feeling. And so I came from that.
Were you confident in the training that you got in basic training? I mean, did you ever say to yourself before you got to Baghdad that you were already a changed person and that there were skills that you had developed that you felt empowered by?
Oh God, yes. By the time I deployed, I was already a senior NCO. I had been through multiple leadership trainings, you know, because that's one thing we do. We're constantly training. Right. And before you leave, you're still constantly training. We were like in intense training for 2 months before we left. And granted, that doesn't prepare you for every situation you're going to face.
Right.
But it does present you with best worst case scenarios and how to go about dealing with all those scenarios. So at least in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I'll tell you a joke in a second. There are all these things that you know you have to do. One of the things that I remember learning that it bothers me to this day is, you know, obviously we had a lot of situations with snipers and just firing that we didn't know where it was coming from, which was really hard because, and that was actually part of my frustration, that we were getting shot at and I just couldn't pull out my weapon and shoot back, right? Because you don't know where they are. But one of the things we learned that they really pushed was when you get out of your vehicle, you never leave your doors open, ever. And there's some tactics and strategies behind that. So now when I leave my vehicle and I see my door open and I go off to do something, it's like, oh, no. Gotta close that door. Just certain little things that
it just gets ingrained in you, I guess.
Yes, awesome. Absolutely.
I think if I think about what you said there and what you said a few minutes ago about different clients that you've noticed, different travel advisors you notice, I think if I was to say there's one thing that I see, that because I know a lot of these people personally, that I think is the reason why they seem to be more calm, they seem to be less fretful, is because I think they trust their training. And it doesn't matter if somebody's been in the business for 20 years or 7 years or 3 years. I find the people who really believe in themselves and they're like, no, I know how to work with my suppliers, rebook. I know how to use different tools that help me efficiently produce what I need to make my client feel certain that I've got their back, whatever it is. When I think about the travel advisors who are seeming to be the most positive right now, they're so self-confident. And I think that's a big part of the reason why some of them are getting through this with less fear, is they just believe in themselves. Myrna, you've been out there 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
What of your, what are the things that you've repeated over the last 7 years that you think are really keeping you confident in these crazy times right now?
I think it's just the relationships I have with my clients, and the fact that I always do the right thing by my client, regardless of how it affects me personally. So I'm always the kind of advisor that, if I make a little mistake and it's my fault, I'm going to pay for it. I don't hide the stuff that goes wrong, and I don't, and I always advocate for my clients. So I used to be a lawyer. So yeah, I'm going to argue with the cruise line about everything until they give me what I want. And, sometimes I win, sometimes I don't, but I know that I can get them a good result. And I know that I'm going to act in their best interests. And so that's my superpower, right? I will advocate for you. I will take care of you, and I will make sure everything is done on your booking. And so whether it gets canceled or not, or postponed or whatever, I always have your back, if you're my client. I think that's what keeps me going, is that I know that it's such like a personal responsibility that I have, kind of like, to me, it's like a duty. Like, I would never, ever think that I would just like walk away from a situation where I'm not, let my client fend for themselves. Like, I would never do that. If there's anything I can do, I'm going to try to do it. And then I have a great network with Virtuoso and with my host agency, Largay Travel. They have our backs too during all of this. They're being amazing in terms of helping us with suppliers. So I have this great backup team. So if I ever feel like, oh my God, I can't deal with this anymore, I know I can pick up the phone and call somebody over there, and they will like talk me through it, or make a phone call or send an email. And that is super valuable.
Yeah.
We're all independent, most of us in this industry, but, we have host agencies, and we have networks, and we have, little groups we belong to. And we really have to use them right now, because this is where you can really leverage that network to get a great result for your client. And then that makes you feel good, and it makes you feel confident. And then you feel like, okay, yes, bad stuff is happening, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, when all this is over, they're going to remember that we took such good care of them, and they're going to come back to us.
I took that away from the webinar I sat in on yesterday with Arrival. You had 3 or 4 tour operators and the head of the European Tour Operator Association. And what all 3 of these business owners, entrepreneurs were saying was, we need to support each other. I know we compete. When times are good, we are at each other's throats in a ethical way, in a professional way. But now more than ever, we need to rally to each other's side. And I think that's another big part of fear, is trying to think you have to do everything yourself and not trusting that you can hand something off to someone, ask somebody for help. And I think that can create a situation where a person falls deeper into despair. And everybody who's going to be listening to this video, please, if you're feeling alone and you feel like you've got questions that aren't getting answered, reach out to any of us, reach out to anybody in the Travel Business Mastermind group, in your private Facebook groups. Don't be afraid to say, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. And this is very important. This dilemma that I'm dealing with, I need guidance. So please don't do it alone. Next week, we're going to be interviewing a individual who's been in and out of the travel industry. She lives in Pisa, Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yep. And Jess is going to talk to us about what it's like to be in a country that's quote unquote shut down. Pisa is up towards the north. She is dramatically impacted by the coronavirus. She is going to tell you stories about how she's getting along, and how millions of people are getting along, that their everyday life is different. She is making sacrifices for the greater whole, and she tells a wonderful story about how she feels towards being quarantined and being locked down. And I mean, one of her daughters lives in Amsterdam and, can't get to Italy right now, so she's removed from her daughter. She's under an extremely stressful situation, but when you talk to Jess, you see a person who's acclimating to the situation. And if things do get worse in the United States and we start heading down the path of Italy, what I think Jess is going to teach all of us is that you'll be okay. The same way that Brenda went from living in America to joining the army, to being in a place like Baghdad where her life was in jeopardy every single day, Brenda acclimated along with thousands of her military service colleagues. They acclimated, they got the job done, and they got home. And Jess will tell you she knows she will get home again. She will get back to a life that was something like what she was living before the beginning of this year, before this craziness started. And I think if we're going to leave you guys with anything today, it is hopefully the knowledge and the confidence that it may get darker before the sun arrives, but we are going to get through this.
Yep.
You have people who are marching along with you. You're not marching alone, and that we can, definitely get there faster and with more of our sensibilities together if we stick together. We support each other. We're not afraid to ask for favors. So I'm going to first go to Brenda and then to Myrna. Some final thoughts before we hang up for the day. Brenda, what would be the big piece of advice you want to tell anybody who's sitting there saying, maybe I just close up shop, maybe I just give up on this dream I've had of doing this until I retire? What would you tell them in this dark time that we're living through?
So a couple of things. First, nothing lasts forever. Life is too short for you to give up on your dreams and the things that you want to do. 3, do the practical things that you can do right now while you have some time off, just like Myrna did. I applaud you, Myrna, because without the systems you have in place, how would you have known when are my people traveling, right? And so I will encourage everybody, get your systems in place. Find out a way that works for you, where you can see for the rest of the year who's going where are they going, who are the vendors. Sit down and take a stock of your business. What are some of the things that you don't want to do anymore? What are some of the vendors? What are some of the products you don't want to sell anymore? What are some of the clients you don't want to deal with anymore? And you have used this time to readjust your business. What are some of the products that are not profitable anymore? Take this opportunity to readjust your business, transform your business if you need to, and go forward. We've been down before. We always get up, right? We are a country that we always get up no matter what. We've been through 9/11, right? So although if you may feel like this is a very dark time, it will not last forever. So just prepare for when that phone starts ringing, because if I have to be at home for a couple of months and I can't go anywhere, I am going to take the very first plane out. I don't care where it's going, but
we're going somewhere.
And a lot of people are going to feel the same way. Yeah. So be prepared for that, because I think it's coming.
Myrna?
Yeah. Everything she said, I second. Yes, having good systems is critical. And if you don't have good systems, this is a good time to clean up your systems. But I really think the first thing you need to focus on taking care of yourself. Put your oxygen mask on first. So if you're feeling really stressed, take a walk, lie down, whatever you got to do, have a glass of wine, make sure you take care of yourself. And second of all, take care of your clients and keep your partnerships going. Check in on your peers. Like if you have colleagues, stay in touch. They need to hear from you as much as you need hear from them right now. And in terms of, look towards the future. This is going to pass. We just don't know how long it's going to take, but it is a great time to, really think about, maybe I don't want to do these particular kinds of cruises like Brenda said. Maybe I really just want to do honeymoons. Maybe, it is a good time to kind of take stock of things. But yeah, and in terms of like really practical stuff, you do have to look at your bookings. You have to look at your money. You have to look at, what you have on your plate. Do you need to cut some expenses, all those stupid subscriptions that we sign up for and then forget about? This is a great time to go through and cut those out. I did that this morning. I went through and I said, okay, do I really need this? No. I got rid of like 3 little things. It wasn't anything big, but every little bit helps whenever we're going into a situation where we have to conserve our capital.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of my.
So just to let everybody know, Myrna and I, since the beginning of this week, have been throwing an idea around about what can she and I do for any peer who's looking for a little assistance. We'll be announcing it next week via social media, but for anybody who watches this video between now and whenever we get that announcement out, we're putting together a special complimentary, we're not going to charge for it, 4-module coaching program, and anybody can join who's a travel advisor. We're working on it and trying to figure out how do we take our 12-week program and fashion it for this period, because we like Myrna said, like Brenda said, this is not going to last forever. So we don't need to do this forever. We just need to give you the chance to take a step back, use some of the skills that Myrna and I teach, that Brenda teaches, and say, okay, if you do these things over the next 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and maybe we'll do a 4-module program where it's 2 weeks in between each module. We're not sure yet. We're still kind of mapping all of that out. But we're going to launch it next week. We want you to join if you're interested. It'll give you something to do. If things get quiet, it will help you look at your systems and evaluate your systems, because we do want you coming out of this period ready to take advantage. One of the things that was said on the webinar yesterday with Arrival was a very experienced entrepreneur in travel. And he said, look, if you are not doing what you need to be ready to take advantage of the pent-up demand that no doubt is going to be there, when the ships start sailing again and the destinations are coronavirus free and people have the confidence to start taking advantage of all the great offers that are out there, you need to be ready. And your clients need to have been listening to you during this time, that they're ready to come back to you, that they don't forget about you in 2 months' time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I meant to say that I forgot, is that don't stop putting marketing out there. It may not be the right time to launch big promotions and specials, but I don't know if Brenda agrees. I see her nodding her head, so I think she does. But don't go quiet. Like, keep emailing your people, keep writing your blog, keep putting stuff out on social. Yes, adjust the messaging, because you need to adjust the messaging for these times we're in. You need to be responsible. You need to be accurate. Be careful the stuff you post. Make sure you check the facts. There's a lot of craziness going out there on the internet, a lot of hype and a lot of false things that are being shared. But don't go quiet, because you want people to know that you're there and that, you have their back. Even if they didn't book with you, talk to them for 15 minutes. Next time they'll book with you. If you can help them out, give them a little advice. Just don't go silent. You shouldn't go silent during this time.
Brenda, you're nodding your head. I think I need to give you the last word.
I found this webinar from 3 years ago that I did.
I saw you posted it.
So it was a 20-minute webinar, because back then in 2017, we had hurricanes, we had fires, we had mass shootings. Yep. Remember? And so I was compelled to do something, and I just put this little thing out. And one of the things that I said was, now is your opportunity to become an expert. Why don't you set up a time once a day, open Q&A call, where you can just go and share what the new closures are, right? You can share facts. Facts are this airline, that airline, this card. So become the expert in that way, so that people can trust you, right? With the true information, the factual information of what is going on. You're not giving them your opinion, just give them the facts. This is what's happening today. These are the new closures, reschedules, whatever. And then you become that trustworthy person that has given them facts so they can make an informed decision. And because it's changing every day, just say, hey guys, tomorrow I'm going to do another one at 4:00. If there are changes, that is something that we do. And you notice that, well, not right now, but whenever we go through a crisis, right, as a country, as a agency, it's information, right? Giving out information, that is what calms people's fears if they know what's really going on. So I will suggest to them, just go on live like we are, go at whatever time and let people ask questions. That will position yourself as an expert.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Genuine authenticity. People are always interested in hearing from somebody who is interested in them, who is genuine about themselves. And like Myrna said, if you're writing newsletters and blogs about, from a genuine space of, I'm so sorry for my clients who had to cancel or postpone. They were so looking forward to these trips. But you know what? We're going to come out of this, and I can't wait to see their photographs when they do go in October or whatever. If you're being authentic, that's marketing in a sense, but it's more than marketing. It's reassuring to people who want to travel, who want to experience the things that you sold them before this craziness began. You should not feel like going silent is some, authentic thing to do. No, authentic is keep talking about travel because people still want to go. Just one note, because Jessica lives in Pisa, Italy, we are going to do this at noon Eastern next week because it'll be around dinner time there in Italy. So it won't be at 4:00, and then we'll go back to the 4:00 schedule in 2 more weeks. We're going to have Shannon Cunningham come on, and she's going to talk about things and how to keep your spiritual strength up, because that's one of Shannon's great strengths.
She's awesome at that. Yeah.
Yeah, she is just such full of exuberance, and I think you're going to really get a good kick out of Shannon's spirit. And so stay tuned. If you want to invite other travel advisors to join this private group, we are only going to do this in the private group, just because anybody can see what we're talking about outside. We really want this for people who are thinking about how they're going to get through this period and kind of go along on this journey with us the next, like I said, it may be that we do this over the next 8 weeks. We're not sure yet, but we are certainly hoping it is shorter rather than longer. So with that, we're going to sign off here on Friday the 13th. It is a lucky day for all of us because we have made it through the end of the week. So I consider myself very fortunate.
Yes, there's a glass of wine waiting for me.
Yes, we're all going to raise a glass for all of you.
All right, bye.
Stay in touch, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye, everyone.